So, the next country we're going to look at and trying to assess whether Henry VII's foreign policy was a success or not is Burgundy. So, Burgundy is very important as far as England is concerned, and it's important for two main reasons. The first is because it was the centre of the cloth trade. So, the cloth trade amounts for 90% of England's trade at the start of the reign of Henry VII. So that goes through Burgundy. So Henry needs to keep on good terms with Burgundy or England will suffer economically. Secondly, Margaret of Burgundy. Margaret, the Dowager Duchess of Burgundy. So the sister of Edward IV, she could and she did support Yorkist pretenders to the throne. So Lambert Simnel goes to Margaret of Burgundy. Perkin Warbeck goes to Margaret of Burgundy. They receive troops, mercenary troops. They receive money, and Henry knows just how vulnerable a king is to a foreign invader. So Henry needs to tread very carefully with Burgundy for security reasons and for trade reasons, two incredibly important aspects of how he would go about conducting his foreign policy. So good relations were crucial. It could be, and it was, a safe haven for Yorkists. And we see that with Simnel and Warbeck, as we've mentioned. What Henry does at various points, particularly with Perkin Warbeck, is he has a choice to make. Does he put economic considerations first, or does he put security considerations first? And Henry puts security considerations first. So in the middle of the Warbeck rebellion between 1493 and 1496, Henry starts a trade embargo with Burgundy, which only comes to an end in 1496 with Magnus Intercursus. So Burgundy and poor relations with Burgundy are seen between 1493 and 1496. That's a desperate measure that Henry took to deal with a desperate situation with Perkin Warbeck. So relations improve in 1506 with Burgundy. Philip the Fair, Philip of Burgundy, finds himself shipwrecked in England, and Henry uses this as an opportunity to bring Philip to court and to renegotiate a trade alliance with Burgundy. So Philip, who was forced to seek shelter in the storm, literally, is basically talked into a new trade agreement with Henry VII. This is known as the Malus Intercursus, the evil agreement. It never actually comes into being because the terms are so unfair on the Burgundians. What Henry also persuaded Philip to do was hand over the Earl of Suffolk, who had sought refuge and was basically living in Burgundy at the time. So this Suffolk was the main Yorkist claimant to the throne who had survived up until this point. He gets executed by Henry VIII actually in 1513. So Henry's fear was that Burgundy and other powers would support Suffolk in a threat against Henry's throne. So it looked from 1506 as if Henry had managed to form a pro-Burgundian alliance. This was very much at the expense of Spain, who were no longer an attractive ally for Henry after the death of Isabella of Castile. And of course, Isabella of Castile and Ferdinand of Aragon had made Spain the powerful country that meant that Henry sought an alliance with them in the Treaty of Medina del Campo. Unfortunately, the Malus Intercursus, the terms were so bad for the Burgundians that it doesn't actually come to pass, and it's the Magnus Intercursus which they fall back on, which is the agreement between the two. So that is Burgundy. A lot of this comes out of the Treaty of Windsor, so make sure you look up, and I would advise you to do some research on the Treaty of Windsor. And I'll leave it up to you to decide whether or not Henry conducted his foreign policy with Burgundy well or not so well.